Hello and welcome to the Gameplay Cast's retro review for the third-person hack-and-slash shooter Warhammer 40k Space Marine. With that, all I have to say is courage and honour, brothers. The game was developed by Relic Entertainment and originally published by THQ, although it is now owned by Sega. I played this in preparation for the sequel, Space Marine 2, and though I did play using the anniversary version of the game, for a game that was developed in 2011, I was honestly impressed. Is this blast from the past then still worth your hard-earned time and money? I would say it most definitely is. And at $4.99 English pounds or $5.98 US dollars from CD Keys, the game is great value for money, and here's why. The story is fairly typical for the 40k Warhammer universe. Orcs have invaded the Forge world, Graia, and as a Forge world, it is of vital strategic importance to the Imperium. So the Ultramarines are deployed to deal with the Orc attack until the relief fleet can arrive. The player controls Captain Titus, who leads the Ultramarines. On the ground, he is accompanied by his veteran sergeant Sidonus and the novice lieutenant Leandros. In the opening, you bring down an Orc cruiser and are separated from your battle brothers. From there, you must regroup to assist the Imperial Guard by destroying a gun emplacement that has been preventing their resupply. Following this, you move to secure the Titan Invictus. Once this is done, Titus finds a distress call from an Inquisitor who has been trapped by Orcs. He was using the base on the planet to perform secret research on a new psychic weapon, which is now at risk. And for anyone who's familiar with 40k, this should immediately ring some alarm bells. Anyway, you liberate the Inquisitor, and with the Imperial Guard's assistance, move to secure the power source for the new weapon before the Orcs breach the defences. The plan being to test fire it and kill all the Orcs, which you do. Predictably, however, this opens a rift in the warp, rather than killing the Orcs. The Chaos Lord Nemeroth and a host of demons emerge from the rift, and Nemeroth plans to use the power source to increase the size of the rift and start a full-blown Chaos incursion. In the Emperor's name, we cannot allow that. So Titus and the gang must close the warp gate and defeat Nemeroth. The game is fully voice acted, with pretty good all-round performances. I liked the portrayals and I felt they were believable characters in line with the 40k lore. The cutscenes do look a little bit dated, but they're still good enough. As a bit of a Warhammer fan, I really like the details on the armour, and there's some awesome scenes, like when you finally deal with the Orc war boss. Love it. And while the storyline is linear, it's interesting enough to justify the slaying of the hordes of enemies. It largely respects the lore and makes sense throughout, though I've got to wonder where the Titan crew appeared from halfway through the game, and if they were there the whole time, why they wouldn't have been deployed earlier, considering how bad the defense of the Forge was going. Who is Nemeroth? Does he have any kind of motivation or background? Where are the Mechanicum in all of this? Yeah. Anyway, these are deeper questions that the game does not care to answer. More of a missed opportunity than a major fault though, and also, why are all the Orcs from London? When I first started playing the game, it really reminded me a lot of Gears of War. The reason why was stumbled upon when I was looking up some details about the game. It's mentioned that Relic hired a lot of people who'd worked on Gears previously, and it definitely shows, but not at all in a bad way. If anything, it feels like how Gears 5 gunplay feels today, but this came out in 2011. What I mean is, you can actually aim your gun consistently and it doesn't kick back like a mule. Hey, some people are into that, but I personally prefer the much cleaner shooting you get in the later Gears titles. I felt like the game's gunplay was actually really fun, and the weapon variety available afforded for different playstyles and approaches. You can snipe at range, cut down enemy elites with a las cannon, or just empty your bolter into enemies at point blank before switching into your melee. The slow-mo fury mode is also fun, popping Orcs' heads at point blank never really gets old. Again, building on the Gears comparison, I feel that one thing the gunplay sorely missed was the active reload. I just instinctively found myself reaching for it and felt like it should have been there, and it would have added a really nice touch to really make me feel like one of the Emperor's Angels. The other thing missing, which I would again lift from Gears, is the inclusion of a cover mechanic. I get that Space Marines are walking tanks, but they are also super intelligent warriors who value their own and the lives of their men. They use cover. I mean, the game has an armor recharge timer that would have fitted perfectly with the cover mechanic, just saying. Unfortunately, the melee kinda lets the side down a bit. It works when you get a combo right, and knocking down an entire group of enemies feels awesome. Equally, I can't deny that I love the power hammer bits. Every time I was given the option, I didn't even think twice. Smashing fools and caving skulls with the thunder hammer was sick. I think it was just a bit too hack and slash for me, in that it's quite easy to just miss attacks because Titus doesn't lock onto enemies, so if you mess up your direction, or the enemy moves around you, it's a swing and a miss. This is contrasted with the ability to be laser accurate with the guns, so I don't feel the two mechanics marry perfectly. It's good, but my gut says it needs refinement to be great. A lock-on mechanic might help sort this, or even a system like the Arkham games for melee, like holding left trigger switches to melee mode, which then works just like the Batman Arkham games, just with Titus removing limbs and crushing skulls. I mean, for slow-mo kills and chained executions alone, that would be cool, right? Moving into how you translate around the maps, Titus's running animation is a bit clunky and unnatural. I'd like to have seen the speed cranked up a bit and the animation refined, but it's passable. Equally, there is some additional gameplay variety with the jump pack missions and some turreted areas that add a bit of a third dimension. Overall, you can really feel the Gears pedigree in this game, and to be honest, it really works. Even now, over 10 years later, I'd say it holds up pretty well and is really enjoyable, even on hard. Oh, and on that, I really want to congratulate Relic on a game that doesn't ruin the experience by playing on hard. At no point did I feel like I wasn't a badass Space Marine captain. The game still killed me, but I still felt like I feel a Space Marine should. Too many games these days just make a hard mode that increases enemy health and damage output and leave it at that. I'm instantly thinking of you, Halo. I've still done them on Legendary, but it's not an experience that makes you feel like a badass super soldier. And ducking behind cover grinding down enemies one shot at a time isn't fun. I like my challenges with a side of fun, please.
It is your destiny.
The game is old. You can take one look at the visuals and tell it's a 10-year-old game. The text resolution is poor by today's standards, the environments feel barren, and a lot of the backgrounds and wider landscapes look very two-dimensional. Some of these issues were actually cited as criticisms for the original game release, and I would certainly say that they haven't improved with age. The level of detail in the environments and the scenery could have been improved even back in 2010. Does it ruin the experience? No. The Space Marines themselves still look cool with decent armor detail and facial animations. Yes, it's not the best, but it certainly wasn't enough to put me off in a significant way. In terms of graphical performance, the game was okay. It doesn't seem well tuned for widescreen monitors, and this includes the Anniversary Edition. I tried a few tools to correct this and couldn't get it to run correctly. I had strangely cut off cutscenes and slow motion as the game just couldn't seem to put the power of my modern rig to use. The VSync is also broken in my view, as sometimes if you didn't put it on, I'd get strange blocky areas that hadn't rendered, which disappeared if you turned it off. However, on different occasions, I'd have the exact same issue if the VSync was turned off, so I had to turn it on. Just weird. Eventually, I changed the game to windowed mode and played on a 1920 by 1080 screen variant with everything on max and didn't get any issues other than the weird VSync anomaly, even with my screen capture software running flat out. I mentioned it earlier in the review, but the melee hack and slash isn't the most refined. I stand by what I said previously, it's good enough, but I think it needed a bit more to be truly great. Equally, the gunplay really needed that assisted reload mechanic, and the environments needed cover mechanics. I guess they might have been worried about just taking too much from Gears in that regard, but I think the game needed them. My last point on combat is that occasionally the enemy AI did some weird things like running away, but when I reloaded the checkpoint, they stood their ground. Didn't happen very often, but it's just something that comes to mind. Probably the biggest issue in the game is the environments. There are sections where you're running from A to B, and you see the same basic textures reused over and over again. The set dressing is non-existent in some places. Like, there will be bunkers which look okay from the outside, but when you go in them, they're just vanilla 2D texture boxes. It's not game breaking, but it does damage the immersion to constantly see the same low res textures and items. It's a real shame and just comes off as a bit lazy. I found that I really enjoyed playing this game, and despite its age, it's just as fun popping orc skulls with your bolter now as it was 11 years ago. The slick gunplay and furious hack and slash combined makes slaughtering the waves of orcs, traitors and demons endless fun. You could argue it gets a bit repetitive, but that's where the weapon variety comes in keeping the combat feeling fresh. The story isn't exactly an epic, but it's enough to keep your interest between slaughtering hordes. Unfortunately, the game is let down by its environments and textures, which weren't great when it was launched, and 10 years of graphical enhancement has done little to improve things. It's not the worst sin in gaming, and after a while you just kinda get used to it, but it is pretty poor. Combined with some of my gripes from the previous section, such as the unrefined melee combat, and the game certainly loses some ground. Overall though, I did enjoy it, and I therefore award Space Marine the retro review score of 7 out of 10. The game still holds up, and for the price, it's great value for money. It's a shame to score the game at a 7 though, as I can see the greatness in its DNA, and with some more polish and time, we could have been looking at something truly worthy of the Emperor of Mankind. Better textures and skyboxes, some refinements to its melee, active reload and cover mechanics for the gunplay, some codex and lore entries, and a tiny bit more variety in the form of another mission or two like the gunship or the additional jump pack style mechanics, just something a bit different, would have really elevated the gameplay. I think with these improvements, even today, we'd be looking at a 9 out of 10 or even a 10 out of 10 game. So on that, I think it's fair to be excited about Space Marine 2, which is currently in development, as if it addresses these issues and applies 10 years worth of improvements, the game could really be something special. If you want to check out Space Marine following this review, it's available on most gaming platforms, though I recommend CD keys. This concludes the Gameplay Cast's review of the third-person hack-and-slash shooter, Space Marine. I've been Tim from Gameplay Casts, you've been awesome, and all that's left for me to say is peace out and thanks for watching.